welcome on this great spring day. The sun is shining. The mayor has to run right afterwards, so his comments are going to be brief. But I really appreciate you, Mayor Bloomberg, taking time out of your busy schedule to come here and join us on this great day for SABE and for the city of New York. Please let me introduce someone that needs no introduction, Mayor Bloomberg.
I've never been sure when they say needs no introduction whether that's good or bad. Sometimes they say that and then go on with a longer introduction than my speech, but that was not true today. Anyways, I won't take it personally. David, thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to welcome SABE Corporation to New York City, and I wanted to first provide a little context for this news. If you remember, it wasn't very long ago that companies were moving out of New York City, not moving in. And one of the big reasons that they were moving out back in those days was that crime was just out of control. In 1990, and a lot of people don't remember back that far, but it wasn't very long ago, more than 2,200 New Yorkers were murdered in our streets, our parks, our subways, and our apartment buildings in 1 year. New York was the murder and crime capital of the nation back then. People did not feel going out safe in the streets at night, no less riding the subways. Kids carried mugging money. People forget those days. Businesses and people were leaving, and the city was just rotting from within. And then Mayor Dinkins and Council Speaker Bellone fought for and won funding to hire thousands of new police officers. And with that, crime started to come down. And when Rudy Giuliani became mayor and deployed CompStat and adopted a broken windows strategy, crime began to fall dramatically. When I became mayor, which was about 11 and a quarter years ago, many people thought crime could only go up because it was so low. But thanks to the historic leadership of Police Commissioner Ray Kelly, we have continued to drive crime down even further. Last year, we set a new record for low murders in the city and a record low for shootings. We did it by recruiting the most diverse police force in the nation, training our officers in smart and proactive policing strategies, and that included targeting criminal hotspots and stopping, questioning, and sometimes frisking people who may have been engaged in criminal activity. Thanks to that work, not only have we prevented thousands of murders and hundreds of thousands of crimes, we prevented the people who would have committed those crimes from getting locked up. And that's why the incarceration rates in our jails are at historic lows. At the start of our administration 11 and a quarter years ago, New York City's incarceration rate was 13% higher than the rest of the country. In 2011, it was 27% lower than the national rate and 32% lower than it was here in 2001. So we're basically incarcerating a third fewer young people. And that's good because they don't learn how to be worse criminals. They don't get an education in the things we don't want them to do. They can stay out and become productive members of society. And that shows in the lower murder rate and the lower shooting rate. Today, we are the safest big city in the nation, and we have one of the lowest incarceration rates. 10 and 20 years ago, I don't think many people would have believed that that was remotely possible. You would have gotten laughed off the stage if you said we'd be standing here today with these facts. The impact of the work is measured first and foremost in lives saved and tragedies avoided. Let me just give you some numbers. If New York City had had the murder rate of Washington, D.C., last year, 1,189 more New Yorkers would have been murdered. If in 2012, New York had the murder rate of Chicago, 1,489 more New Yorkers would have been murdered in 2012. To each of these numbers, add 400, because that's what the total murder rate would have been. If we had the murder rate of Philadelphia, 1,771 more New Yorkers would have been murdered in 2012. If we had the murder rate of Baltimore, 2,914 more New Yorkers would have been murdered than in 2012. To put it in context, if we had the murder rate of Detroit last year, 4,511 more New Yorkers would have been murdered than were actually murdered. That would have taken the total number of murders to very close to 5,000. Now, where are we? Let me tell you what happened last week here in New York City. we had one murder. One is one too many, but one murder in a city of 8.4 million people. That is down 30% compared to last year's record low. This year, murder rate so far this year, and we're almost a quarter of the ways through the year. Tampering with the success that we have had in bringing down the murder rates would have been just outrageous, would have been irresponsible, and it would have been terribly dangerous. The impact of crime cutting goes even further beyond the lives, though, that we are saving. And you can see it all around us. People who are here, moving here, the families who are staying here, the tourists who are flocking here, and the companies who are investing here. None of this is guaranteed to continue. Success in our business is not inevitable, but it does begin with public safety. With safety and security, anything is possible. Without it, nothing is. The lesson of our city is the lesson we learned the hard way, but is a lesson that too many people, I think, today in elected office already seem to have forgotten. Over the past year, the greatest police department in the world has been subjected to constant attacks from elected officials and special interest groups. And the latest example of that was the Inspector General bill currently before the City Council. The purpose of this bill, for those of you that don't know, is not to curtail corruption, because there's so little exists. 5 district attorneys and 2 New York U.S. attorneys oversee the NYPD, as does the Civilian Complaint and Review Board and the Commission to Combat Police Corruption. At the same time, thanks to Commissioner Kelly, we now devote as many members of the NYPD to Internal Affairs Bureau as we do to counterterrorism, and we are vigilant about catching the few bad apples, and we do hold them accountable. The Internal Affairs Bureau of the Police Department is the Inspector General's office. Around the country, IGs, as they're called, IG offices exist within police departments to combat corruption and misconduct, and that's exactly what our Internal Affairs Bureau does. The FBI's IG is charged with the same responsibility, combating waste and fraud and misconduct in the FBI. But our City Council's bill would create a new bureaucracy with the power to oversee the policies and strategies. That's what they say, policies and strategies adopted by the police commissioner. That's not an inspector general, that's a policy supervisor. And I don't think any rational person would say we need 2 competing police commissioners. There would be questions in the ranks of police officers about who's really in charge and whose policies they should follow. That kind of breakdown in the chain of command would be disastrous for public safety. We need a unified police department with unmistakable lines of accountability. And that means we need a police commissioner who is fully accountable to the mayor and is fully accountable to the voters. Together, the mayor and the commissioner set the direction of the department, and they do not need an unelected and unaccountable official to supervise their policy decisions. The bill being considered by the City Council would undermine the accountability that has been essential to the department's success and make our city less safe. If the Council passes it, and I urge the members to oppose it, I will veto it. We have come too far to forget the lessons we've learned, and those who are taking our record low levels of crime for granted are making a terrible and tragic and dangerous mistake. We cannot afford to play election year politics with the safety of our city, and we cannot afford to roll back the progress of the past 20 years. Make no mistake about it, this bill jeopardizes that progress and will put the lives of New Yorkers and our police officers at risk. The success of our police department in driving crime to record lows has allowed us to drive the number of jobs in our city to record highs. And so, on a brighter note, to show you the effect of low crime, we are excited to be adding even more, thanks to the Saby Corporation. Their business is data infrastructure, which is something I know a little bit about, and there's no doubt that it is a very big part of the foundation for a technologically advanced economy. Ensuring that institutions can securely store, access, and share data really is key to our city's flourishing tech presence and future. And that's why today commissioning SABI Corporation's Intergate Manhattan is so important. In just the last 3 years, local firms have leased more than 5 million square feet of data center space in the tri-state area. And when you consider that in New York City alone, we've seen a 30% surge in tech jobs in just the last 7 years, it is clear that demand for state-of-the-art data center space is not only going to grow, it can only grow in the next coming years. We expect that demand to grow exponentially in the years ahead because of our partnerships with major research institutions like Intergate's first New York tenant, the New York Genome Center, and the major new applied science campuses that we're developing with Cornell and the Technion Institute on Roosevelt Island, with NYU and Carnegie Mellon in downtown Brooklyn, and with Columbia University in the northern end of Manhattan. Intergate Manhattan will help ensure New York City is ready to meet that demand with more than 1 million square feet of space, and thanks to a top-to-bottom infrastructure overhaul, Intergate Manhattan, which for many years has been known as the Verizon Building, is now the largest and most efficient high-rise data center in the world. It should be in New York, and it is. We are also one of the most secure data centers anywhere. This one is. The building's Con Ed substation is on the second and third floors, which will virtually eliminate the risk of storm surge damage. In fact, in the wake of Hurricane Sandy, even with the streets outside flooded with stormwater, this building's lights stayed on. And that's going to be incredibly important for the communications carriers in the event of future disasters. This new data center will provide a range of services to its clients, everything from full-service support, where SABI runs all of your IT infrastructure on its servers, to providing up to 600,000 square feet of space on 17 floors where companies can install and maintain their own servers. Intergate Manhattan is going to allow firms in our growing tech sector to remain on the competitive edge for many years to come. Its location in downtown Manhattan, near the heart of our financial district, will continue this area's post-9/11 expansion and rebirth. It is a real vote of confidence, both in our city's future and in Lower Manhattan. It will help create thousands of jobs for our city's growing knowledge economy, and it will help build on our administration's work to promote further growth in the tech center while fostering a culture of innovation. And I want to thank David SABI and his team, as well as a number of people whose partnership was critical to making this important day for our city possible. And they include Jeff Caney of the National Real Estate Advisors, Kathy Wild of the Partnership for New York City, Dr. Robert Darnell of New York Genome Center, and Nicole LaRusso of the Downtown Alliance. So my message is, this is wonderful for the city, and this is exactly what's been happening. People have been moving here, but we should make no mistake about it. Our future is in our hands. We could revert to where we were before very quickly. We've just got to make sure that that does not happen. And David, thank you very much for your confidence in us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wasn't that great? I couldn't have said it better myself. And we are excited about how safe this city is. Last night we had a number of people here into the wee hours, and there was no issue whatsoever about walking home to various places. So I share what the mayor just had to say about how important safety is. On behalf of SABI Data Centers, I want to again welcome all of you. It's a great day outside, sunshine. Today is the first day of spring, so this old 1974-year-old building has a new interior, and it's ready to start its new life. As I said, this is a big day for SABI and for New York City. Today, SABI is commissioning of Intergate Manhattan, our 1 million square foot flagship data center, is accumulation of a lot of hard work by a lot of great people. This amazing project couldn't have happened without the help of people too many to name here today, but I must acknowledge a few. First, I'd like to acknowledge our teammate, Jeff Caney, and his team, the National Real Estate Advisors, for their vision and for their help. They are truly the best partner we've ever had. Jeff, thank you. I also have to acknowledge my own son, John Saby, for the idea of coming to New York. I can remember the conversations 3 or 4 years ago, and the maps that laid out New York City as a possibility for us, but through his vision and for his idea to come here, and then finding this spectacular building right in the heart of downtown New York, John Saby's leadership in this project has been extraordinary. And I got to say, I'm proud to say he's my son, too. I said it was a great day for Saby 2 years ago. It was a great day again for Saby when we met Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan, our managing director in New York, his 30 years of experience in New York City, his friends, his network of friends, his compassion, and his stamina are extraordinary. But Joe's leadership in making this all happen was absolutely essential. Joe, a special thank you to you. I know you're here somewhere. Where are you, Joe? There you are in the back. You know, it wasn't so long ago, just a few short blocks from here, that Thomas Edison changed the world by introducing electricity as an energy utility to empower America and the industrial age. While I'm not comparing us to Thomas Edison by any stretch of the imagination, there is no doubt in my mind that tenants like the New York Genome Center, under the leadership of Dr. Robert Darnell of Rockefeller University, with access to the enormous compute power available at IGM, very soon they will use these new tools in life science space with the potential to change all of our lives, and that is just the beginning. IGM will provide that same compute power to New York City's burgeoning information-based industries, expanding their possibilities while creating the potential for thousands more of very high-paid jobs right here in the city, as the mayor suggested. I've already said it's a great day for Saby, but I must also say it's a great day for New York, because from here forward, New York will be able to say that because of Intergate Manhattan, New York has the most modern, most energy efficient, high-rise data center in the world. Thanks so much to everyone who has helped us commemorate it today, and in particular those that have helped us to make this happen. Now I'd like to take a minute to introduce Jeff Canny. Jeff Canny is the Chief Executive Officer of National Real Estate Advisors, to say a few words. Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you very much, Dave. Dave and I think a lot alike, which is why when I wrote my remarks this morning, I started off with a comment about Thomas Edison. I think it's very significant that in 1882, almost 130 years ago to this month, Thomas Edison opened up the first commercial power plant at 225 Pearl Street, a stone's throw from here. Now, he chose this spot because at the time, just like it is today, Manhattan is the financial and commercial center of the United States for sure, and probably the world. What he didn't know at the time, at least I don't think he did, was that he was putting in place the first piece of an enormous infrastructure project, the electrical power grid, and that grid was going to change how people lived completely, changed our society, changed our culture. I believe that the internet is as powerful, will be as powerful as what Thomas Edison did. And we're only beginning to see what those possibilities are. It's like magic, like the first incandescent bulb. It looked like it was magic. The internet looks like it's magic. But it's not magic. It's a real thing. It's tubes, it's pipes, it's wires, it's workers. And whether you're building an electric power grid or you're building an internet, you need skilled people. And in particular, you need skilled electricians, lots and lots and lots of them. And aren't you lucky here in New York, you have the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, local number 3, who all of you folks who live around here I know are embedded in this community, have been embedded in the community for decades and decades, and they have deployed armies of people here to help us put this infrastructure together. And when you get upstairs and you see what this looks like, you are going to be amazed, because this is complicated, intense, very expensive infrastructure. We have dozens of generators here, we'll have when we're finished, that each one of them is 10, 20, 100 times more powerful than Thomas Edison's first generator. So it's thanks to the very skilled people in Local 3 and other trades that we're able actually to build the internet. As importantly, in this case, they brought money. We represent pension funds from the electrical workers, so we not only brought skills here, we brought cash, lots and lots of cash. Why did we do that? Because we thought it was a fabulous investment. We knew it was going to create an enormous amount of jobs immediately and into the future as tenants move in and tenants move out and technology changes and wires have to be plugged and unplugged. So we get work, but we also get a great return. And we're doing this with Dave Saby and his family and his team all across the country. Dave is a visionary. He's an extraordinary man. He made this possible, and we're delighted to be his partner. I should point out, electricians are not responsible for heat. That's not in their jurisdiction. So, I'm sure you don't want to hear too much longer from me, so I'd like to thank you all for coming here today. I'd like you to extol the virtues of this building. It is truly extraordinary. Truly extraordinary. I can't emphasize that enough. This is not an ordinary project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. I can't tell you how much I appreciate Catherine Wild being here this morning. Catherine was one of the first people I met when I came to New York. Joe Ryan escorted me over, and we were quick friends. And she's done so much. This is a woman that gets it done, and she's gotten it done for us. Please let me introduce Catherine Wild, President and CEO of the Partnership of New York. Catherine.
Thank you. I will just say on behalf of the business community, this is a real breakthrough day with Dave and Greg bringing this project and their team bringing this project, which is the critical piece of the infrastructure for New York's tech sector to move to the next level. Nobody would have thought 10 years ago that today New York would be second only to Silicon Valley as a tech center in this country. And in fact, the next generation of activity is going to be more and more something that should play to our competitive advantage. Because as you'll see, as you learn more about what this center is going to do in terms of taking massive amounts of data and analyzing it and making it useful for new purposes, the future of our financial industry, our health industry, our media industry, all depends on this kind of facility, this kind of infrastructure for them to make the transition to the next generation. So this is very important for the entire economy of New York. This isn't about the little startups who we think of as our tech sector. This is about the transformation of our whole economy. So thank you to both David and Greg for doing this.
Thank you, Catherine, for those nice words, but you're absolutely right. And that segues nicely into Dr. Robert Darnell. Dr. Robert Darnell and I have become, I will be personal and say, fast friends because of our mutual understanding of the potential of the unlocking of the genome and the promise that it has for health sciences. Please let me introduce to you Dr. Robert Darnell, President and Scientific Director of the New York Genome Center and also Chief Scientist at Rockefeller University. Dr. Darnell, please.
It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you here, and especially to celebrate the opening of the Saby Centers, data centers here in New York. I am the President, CEO, and Scientific Director of the New York Genome Center, in addition to my position as a professor at Rockefeller University. I want to tell you a little bit about high-throughput genomic sequencing and why the data center here is so crucially important to us. The genome sequencing is the scientific revolution of the 21st century. We're not going to see anything like this again in our lifetime. The Genome Center itself was founded as an idealistic consortium of 12 academic medical centers here in the city, as well as the major hospitals in the city, to try and capitalize on this scientific revolution. The rate-limiting aspect in using the ability to sequence our genomes very efficiently now is not the sequencing itself, which is relatively low in cost and relatively fast, as I'll give you an anecdote of in a minute, but it is the data crunching. So as one example, we have sequenced our first patient referred to us by a physician, Wendy Chung at Columbia, this past week was a little child who had a cardiac defect. And it was really unclear how to manage this child going forward. There's a big question about a very invasive cardiothoracic surgery and what was right and what was wrong. And Dr. Chung suspected, wisely as it turned out, that this patient might have a genetic disorder. It was completely unclear from the exam and from any of the blood work that was done. And she contacted a commercial genome sequencing center who told them they would be happy to sequence the child, but it would take about 4 months. So that doesn't do any good with a 1-month-old who's in a crucial clinical decision point. So she came to the New York Genome Center, and we were able, in 1 day, to sequence not only the child, but both of the child's parents. So 27 hours of complete genome sequence, and then the rest of the week we crunched data using high-performance computing of the sort established at the Genome Center by Chris Dwan, who's here, and of the sort that we're going to put here in the SABI Data Center. And that crunching turned out to give us a definitive diagnosis for what was going on in the child, and made a big change in the clinical management for Dr. Chung and for the family. So as a scientist and a physician in New York for over 20 years, I feel very privileged to have been able to be a humanist and work with sick people, imagining different ways to make them better. But what I'm excited about today is the transformative potential we're at right now, where we can actually rapidly and quickly sequence the patient, the DNA, not only from a single patient, but from once we learn how to do this and once we're established here in the data center, in thousands and thousands of patients. So it's a transformative moment. 2013 is going to be a transformative time in 2014 for medicine in this city. And a second example I would just throw out there for you is a big project of the sort we can really do here in the center. We would like to sequence I'm a neuro-oncologist, so one of the things I've done is to help people die of glioblastoma for 20 years. It's a tragic, very, very difficult disease. The median survival when you're diagnosed is 12 months. And we would like to pay some sort of tribute to everybody who died in the last decade by trying to sequence their DNA from every patient who passed away with glioma. Take that information, crunch it through the data center here, and learn what is the network diagram, what are the wiring diagrams that really drive this kind of lethal cancer. And from that, take that into clinically actionable clinical trial that I'd like to start this year, where we take newly diagnosed patients and use this information to figure out what kinds of drugs we can treat that patient with. Not only 1 or 2, but maybe several drugs, maybe even phase 3 drugs in development at pharmaceutical industries and biotech that can hit new pathways. And one can imagine this sort of vast conglomeration of data and thoughtful scientists and thoughtful physicians has the potential to maybe change that clinical outcome from 12 months to something significantly longer. And that sort of information will be customized. It'll be different for each patient, because each patient with these brain tumors actually has a different set of mutations, and we need to know what it is for each one. So this conjunction of clinical information, genome sequencing, and data crunching is the future for transformative healthcare. And I feel extremely privileged to have run into Dave Saby through Chris Dwan's help again to try and establish a mechanism for moving this forward. I just want to say that these two examples are examples of many, many different disorders whose treatment promises to be revolutionized by genomic medicine. the new pathways, hope for treatment for a whole slew of people facing terrible diseases is only going to happen with the sort of high-performance computing and data storage that the Genome Center is building here in collaboration with the SABI Corporation. So today, in my view, we're celebrating much, much more than the opening of a data center. We're celebrating the hope, discovery, partnership, and a real chance to alleviate human suffering. So I want to just close by thanking the New York Genome Center's institutional founding members. To list them, Albert Einstein College of Medicine is our most recent founding member institution. We've reached out on Long Island to include the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, Stony Brook, North Shore Long Island Jewish Health System, and here in Manhattan, Columbia University, Weill Cornell Medical College, the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, Rockefeller University, Mount Sinai School of Medicine, New York Presbyterian Hospital, NYU School of Medicine, and of course the one outlier is the Jackson Laboratory, who is world's experts in mouse genetics and will be able to interface with what we're doing in humans. We also want to acknowledge our associate members, a growing list of people, which include the Hospital for Special Surgery and the Roswell Park Cancer Center in Buffalo, New York, which is our newest official partner. I also want to thank New York Genome Center's founding philanthropic partners, particularly the Simons Foundation, and special thanks to Jim Simons for his intense understanding and interest of the power of high-performance computing and his support for the Genome Center, as well as for Dave Sabi's initiative here. I want to thank the Carson Family Charitable Trust, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, and Bloomberg Philanthropies. Even though the mayor has gone, I want to thank him for his personal support and contribution to the New York Genome Center. And last but not least, I want to thank Dave Sabi and his entire team, as well as Chris Dwan from the New York Genome Center, and the high-performance computing team at the New York Genome Center for all their hard work in making today happen. Thank you.
Sometimes I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world to be able to work with groups like Robert's and really feel like a small part of this big change that's coming in healthcare. And it is transformative, there is no doubt about it. Now please let me introduce Nicole LaRusso. I said Joe Ryan had stamina. She's planned for spring, and I think she didn't realize it was going to be this cold, but she's been sitting there patiently. Nicole is the Senior Vice President for Economic Development and Planning for the Alliance for Downtown New York. Please let me introduce Nicole to you. Thank you, Nicole.
I'm fine. I'm very enthusiastic about spring, I have to admit. So thank you for inviting me to speak today. It's an honor to be here with this wonderful panel, including the mayor and Kathy Weil and Dr. Darnell, and wanted to make sure to, first of all, say on behalf of the Downtown Alliance and the entire Lower Manhattan community, I'd like to welcome David Sabi and Intergate Manhattan to the neighborhood. We're so pleased that you chose 375 Pearl Street as the home for your state-of-the-art data center. Intergate Manhattan is yet another asset on a long list of infrastructure and amenities that make Lower Manhattan the region's premier location for innovative, forward-thinking companies and institutions to grow and expand. Just as the internet revolutionized business in the 1990s, big data will be leading growth and innovation for the next decade and beyond. Every sector of the economy, as Kathy Weil mentioned, finance, healthcare, science and education, media and digital technology, all are increasingly turning their focus to the analysis of massive data sets to solve problems and meet customers' needs. Of course, all of these industries are represented in Lower Manhattan today, and the opening of this center will certainly increase the district's appeal to an even wider spectrum of companies and institutions. By locating at 375 Pearl Street, Sabi's data center also takes advantage of Lower Manhattan's strategic location at the epicenter of the region's vast and growing pool of knowledge workers. In fact, in just the past decade, the number of college-educated people living within a roughly 30-minute commute of this location has skyrocketed, as over 172 additional college-educated people aged 18 to 44 settled in areas like Battery Park City, the Lower East Side, Williamsburg, and Jersey City, all of which are accessible to Lower Manhattan via quick trips on the subway, path, ferry, bike, and even walking across the Brooklyn Bridge. That increase in the population of college-educated people is the biggest and fastest growth of knowledge workers seen anywhere in the 30-county New York metropolitan region. And it's one of the reasons that 390-plus companies have relocated to Lower Manhattan since 2005. And now, with the opening of this data center, there is no doubt that many more will soon join the ranks of knowledge and data-driven companies choosing Lower Manhattan to innovate and grow. SABE knows that the smart money is betting on Lower Manhattan. We look forward to celebrating the success of this center in the months and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, for that, and thank you, Jeff, and Robert Darnell, and Catherine. We'd like to open up for a few